Accepting reality is one of the most powerful steps you can take when learning how to let go of what you cannot control. So often, we exhaust ourselves fighting against what simply is. We replay situations over and over in our minds, wishing they had turned out differently. We say things like, if only this hadn't happened, or if only they hadn't said that. But the truth is, no amount of wishing or resisting can rewrite the past or change the circumstances that are beyond our influence. What acceptance allows us to do is to stop fighting with life and start moving with it. It does not mean that we approve of everything that has happened or that we agree with the choices others have made. It means we acknowledge reality as it is right now without adding extra pain by denying it or resisting it. Imagine being caught in a sudden rainstorm without an umbrella. You can stand there shouting at the sky, feeling angry that it's raining, wishing it would stop, and resenting that you are getting wet. But that doesn't change the fact that the rain is falling. Acceptance is when you say, it's raining. I'm wet. Now what can I do about it? Perhaps you find shelter, perhaps you laugh and walk through the rain anyway, but the key is that you've stopped fighting against what is already true. This is what makes acceptance so powerful. It gives you back your mental and emotional energy so you can put it toward action rather than frustration. Many people fear that accepting reality means giving up or becoming passive, but it is the opposite. Acceptance is an active choice. It takes strength to look at a difficult situation, admit that you cannot change it, and decide to focus on how you respond. When you refuse to accept reality, you stay trapped in a loop of wishing and waiting for things to be different, which often leads to bitterness, stress, and emotional exhaustion. Acceptance breaks that cycle. It frees you to look forward rather than backward, to deal with the present rather than argue with it. It also opens the door to emotional healing. Let's say you experienced a loss, whether it's the end of a relationship, the loss of a job, or a missed opportunity. At first, it's natural to feel angry, disappointed, or sad. Those feelings are valid, but over time, if you continue to fight against the truth, telling yourself it shouldn't have happened, that you deserved something different, you stay locked in suffering. Accepting reality allows you to process those feelings and eventually make peace with them. It helps you say, this happened. I can't change it, but I can choose how I live from here. Acceptance also builds resilience. Life will always bring unexpected events, changes, challenges, surprises. If you can learn to meet those moments with acceptance rather than resistance, you will recover faster and with more clarity. You'll waste less time being stuck in denial and more time adapting, finding solutions, and taking steps forward. It doesn't mean you stop feeling emotions. You may still feel sadness, frustration, or anger, but you don't let those emotions control you. You let them move through you, and then you keep moving. One of the most practical ways to practice acceptance is to pause and simply name what is happening. Instead of saying, this shouldn't be happening, you say, this is happening. That small shift allows you to see the situation clearly and ask, what is in my control right now? This simple question can change everything. You might not control the event, but you can control your thoughts, your words, and your next steps. That is where your power lies. Letting go of what you can't control always starts with acceptance. You can't let go of something if you're still denying that it exists. Think of acceptance as shining a light on the situation so you can see it clearly, without the fog of anger, denial, or resistance. Once you see it clearly, you can decide how to respond in a way that protects your peace and moves you forward. You stop wasting energy trying to change the unchangeable, and you start using that energy to create a better present and future. Acceptance is not always easy, but it is worth practicing daily. Every time life doesn't go as planned, every time someone else's choices affect you, every time the world feels unfair, you have an opportunity to pause and say, this is reality right now. I may not like it, but I can face it. That moment of honesty is where freedom begins. When you accept reality, you stop carrying the heavy weight of what could have been and start walking lightly toward what can still be. Shifting your focus is one of the most empowering choices you can make when learning to let go of what you cannot control. Human nature often pushes us to obsess over the things we wish we could change: other people's behavior, outcomes that didn't go our way, or situations that feel unfair. The more we think about these things, the more they drain our energy, leaving us frustrated, helpless, and stuck. The secret to finding peace is not to eliminate all challenges, but to redirect your attention to the areas where you actually have influence. When you shift your focus, you reclaim your personal power and stop giving away your mental and emotional strength to circumstances you cannot change. Imagine holding a flashlight in a dark room. Wherever you point the beam, that area becomes clear while the rest of the room stays hidden. Your attention works the same way. What you focus on becomes brighter and bigger in your mind. If you shine your mental flashlight on everything that is wrong, unfair, or out of your control, your life will feel heavy and negative. But if you turn that same focus toward what you can do, what you can learn, and how you can grow, the whole situation begins to feel different. The problem may not disappear, but your perspective shifts, and with it, your experience changes. One of the most powerful things you can focus on is your response. You might not be able to control someone's actions, but you can control whether you react with anger or with calm. You might not control whether a plan falls apart, but you can control whether you give up or try again in a new way. This is where your freedom lies. Not in forcing life to go the way you want, but in choosing who you will be no matter what happens. By focusing on your response, you stop being a victim of your circumstances and start becoming the author of your story. It also helps to focus on gratitude. When something goes wrong, our brains have a habit of zooming in on the problem and ignoring everything else that is going right. Gratitude is like deliberately turning the camera toward the good that still exists in your life. Even on your hardest day, there is always something to be thankful for. A friend who supports you, a lesson you learned, a new chance that tomorrow brings. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it reminds you that pain isn't the whole picture. It gives you strength to keep moving forward. Another area to shift your focus is toward action. Worry is a form of mental spinning. We think about the problem again and again, but it leads nowhere. Action, however small, puts you back in motion. If you lost an opportunity, instead of endlessly replaying it in your mind, focus on preparing for the next one. If someone hurt you, instead of focusing on their behavior, focus on how you can heal and protect your peace. Action breaks the cycle of helplessness and creates momentum toward solutions. This shift of focus also involves letting go of the need to control other people's opinions or choices. You cannot make someone treat you the way you want, think the way you think, or feel the way you feel. The more you try, the more disappointed and frustrated you become. Instead, focus on setting healthy boundaries and communicating clearly, then release the outcome. When you stop trying to manage other people, you free yourself from carrying the weight of their decisions. You learn to respect their path while staying committed to your own. Shifting focus is a skill that improves with practice. It doesn't mean you never feel upset, worried, or frustrated. It means that when those emotions come, you acknowledge them, then intentionally guide your mind toward a place where you have power. It's like steering a boat in rough waters. You can't calm the waves, but you can choose where you aim the rudder. Over time, this practice builds mental strength. You start to notice that even when life throws surprises at you, you bounce back more quickly because you are not wasting as much energy on things beyond your reach. It's also important to be patient with yourself as you develop this habit. Your brain may naturally want to focus on the negative, especially if you've been through a stressful experience. That's normal. Each time you catch yourself dwelling on what you cannot control, Gently bring your attention back to what you can influence right now: your breath, your words, your next step. This is not about denying your feelings, but about choosing where you will invest your energy. The more you practice, the easier it becomes. And soon this shift of focus will feel like second nature. When you learn to redirect your attention away from the uncontrollable and toward the controllable, life becomes lighter. You no longer feel like a prisoner of circumstances. You begin to notice opportunities where before you saw only obstacles. You start to feel calmer because your mind is no longer pulled in 1,000 directions. And most importantly, you regain a sense of control, not over the world, but over yourself. That is the kind of control that truly matters, the kind that brings lasting peace and confidence. Releasing resentment is one of the most liberating steps you can take when learning to let go of what you cannot control. Resentment is like carrying a backpack full of rocks everywhere you go. Each grudge, each replayed argument, each bitter memory adds another stone to the load. Over time, it weighs you down, slows you down, and drains the joy from your present moments. The painful truth about resentment is that it punishes you more than it punishes the person or situation you're holding on to. You may think that by staying angry, you are somehow keeping justice alive, but in reality, the person or event that hurt you often moves on while you remain stuck, still carrying the emotional burden long after the moment has passed. Releasing resentment does not mean you are saying what happened was okay. It means you are choosing not to let it hold power over your life anymore. Think about how much energy resentment consumes. When you resent someone, you think about them constantly: what they said, what they did, how unfair it felt. Your mind keeps replaying the story, often with new details added each time to make it sting even more. This mental rehearsal doesn't solve anything. It keeps you trapped in the past and blocks you from fully experiencing the present. The event may have happened months or even years ago, but every time you replay it, you make yourself relive the pain as if it's happening right now. Letting go of resentment is like putting that heavy backpack down. It gives you the freedom to walk forward without dragging yesterday's pain into today. Forgiveness is a powerful tool in this process, but it's important to understand what forgiveness really means. Forgiveness is not about excusing bad behavior or pretending something didn't hurt. It is about refusing to let that hurt control your heart and mind any longer. It is a choice you make for your own peace, not for the benefit of the other person. In some cases, you may never receive an apology and you may never get the closure you were hoping for. Releasing resentment means giving yourself that closure anyway, deciding that your happiness matters more than holding on to pain. Releasing resentment also involves letting go of the idea that the past could have been different. We often hold on to anger because deep down we believe that if we stay angry long enough, it will somehow rewrite history or make the other person see how wrong they were. But the past is unchangeable, no matter how hard we wish it weren't. Accepting that truth is painful at first, but ultimately freeing. When you let go of the fantasy of a different past, you create space to focus on building a better future. Sometimes resentment is not toward another person, but toward life itself, toward a situation that felt unfair, a dream that didn't come true, or a season of difficulty you wish you hadn't had to endure. You may even feel resentment toward yourself for choices you made or chances you missed. That kind of resentment can be just as heavy, maybe even heavier, because it turns inward. The same principle applies. Holding on to that anger only keeps you stuck. You have to release it, forgive yourself, and allow yourself to move forward with compassion. Self-forgiveness can be one of the hardest forms of forgiveness, but it is essential if you want to live free from regret. A practical way to release resentment is to express what you feel in a safe way. You might write a letter to the person you are angry with, not to send, but to get the words out of your heart. You might talk to a trusted friend, mentor, or therapist who can help you process what happened. Sometimes, simply speaking your pain out loud helps to loosen its grip on you. After expressing it, make a conscious decision to let it go. You may have to do this more than once. Resentment has a way of creeping back into our minds, but each time it does, you have another opportunity to release it again. Over time, it becomes lighter and lighter until it no longer holds you captive. Releasing resentment doesn't always mean reconciling with the person who hurt you. Sometimes it is healthier to forgive from a distance and maintain boundaries. Forgiveness is about freeing your own spirit, not necessarily restoring a broken relationship. You can wish someone well and still choose not to allow them into your life if their presence is harmful. The goal is your inner freedom, not forced closeness. When you release resentment, you make room for more positive emotions like peace, gratitude, and joy. You stop letting old wounds dictate your mood and your choices. You gain clarity and emotional energy that can be used to pursue your goals, nurture relationships, and enjoy the present moment. Life feels lighter because you are no longer carrying the weight of grudges and regrets. You begin to see that letting go was not about losing something, but about gaining your freedom back. The process of releasing resentment takes courage. It asks you to surrender your desire to stay angry and to trust that peace is a better path. It asks you to be brave enough to feel the pain and then let it pass, rather than holding it as a shield. But the reward is worth it. You step into a life that is not ruled by the past, but shaped by your choices today. And that is the kind of freedom that allows you to truly move forward. Practicing mindfulness is one of the most effective ways to let go of what you cannot control, because it teaches you to anchor yourself in the present moment, rather than being pulled into the past or thrown into the future. So much of our stress comes from living anywhere but here. We replay what happened yesterday and wish we could change it, or project into tomorrow and worry about everything that might go wrong. The mind races, the heart feels heavy, and we lose sight of what is actually happening right now. Mindfulness is the practice of gently bringing your attention back to the present, to this breath, this step, this moment, and realizing that here in this very second, you are safe and capable of choosing your next thought and action. When you practice mindfulness, you begin to notice that your thoughts are not always facts. The mind can create stories, exaggerate problems, and keep you locked in fear or regret. Mindfulness teaches you to observe those thoughts without getting caught in them. You might notice yourself thinking, I can't believe this happened, or what if everything goes wrong? And instead of spiraling, you simply observe, that's a worried thought. This simple act of noticing gives you space to respond calmly instead of reacting impulsively. You start to see that while you can't control the situation, you can control how much power you give your thoughts over your emotions. Mindfulness also helps you reconnect with your body, which is where a lot of stress hides. When we are anxious or resentful, our shoulders tense, our breathing becomes shallow, our jaw tightens. By slowing down and paying attention to how we feel physically, we can relax the body and calm the mind. Something as simple as taking 3 slow, deep breaths can signal to your nervous system that it's safe to relax. This shift helps you feel grounded, even in the middle of uncertainty. It doesn't make the problem go away, but it helps you face it with more clarity and strength. Another benefit of mindfulness is that it helps you appreciate the present, even when life feels messy. When your attention is scattered, you can miss the good that is right in front of you. The warmth of sunlight on your face, the sound of laughter, the chance to rest for a moment and breathe. These small moments are easy to overlook when your mind is consumed by things outside your control. Mindfulness brings those moments into focus and reminds you that there is still beauty and goodness to be experienced, no matter what else is happening. This shift can be deeply healing because it shows you that you are not powerless. You can still choose to find joy right now. Practicing mindfulness does not require hours of meditation or a perfectly quiet space. It can be as simple as paying full attention to one activity at a time. When you eat, notice the taste, smell, and texture of your food instead of rushing through the meal. When you walk, feel the ground beneath your feet and the rhythm of your steps. When you talk to someone, Give them your full attention instead of thinking about what you will say next. These small practices train your brain to stay present and engaged with what is happening instead of drifting into worry or regret. The more you practice, the easier it becomes to notice when your mind wanders and to gently guide it back. Mindfulness is also powerful when emotions run high. Instead of trying to suppress or control how you feel, mindfulness invites you to sit with the emotion, breathe through it, and let it pass naturally. For example, if you feel anger rising, you might pause. Notice where you feel it in your body, maybe a tight chest or clenched fists, and breathe into that space. By doing this, you acknowledge the feeling without letting it explode or take over. This practice can prevent impulsive reactions and help you respond with clarity. Over time, mindfulness teaches you that emotions are temporary visitors. They come and go, and you do not have to be controlled by them. What makes mindfulness so helpful in letting go is that it shifts your focus from trying to control the uncontrollable to fully experiencing what you can influence. This breath, this thought, this choice, it pulls your mind away from what if and if only and brings it back to what now. That is where your power lies. Life will always be uncertain, but mindfulness gives you the tools to stay steady, even when everything around you feels chaotic. You become more patient with yourself and with others, more resilient when plans change, and more open to seeing opportunities in unexpected places. With consistent practice, mindfulness becomes more than just a technique. It becomes a way of living. You begin to notice that you spend less time overthinking and more time simply living. You become less reactive and more intentional. You start to trust that even if you cannot control everything, you can always return to this moment, to this breath, and find calm. That is where true freedom begins. Not in trying to hold life tightly in your hands, but in learning to relax your grip and experience life as it unfolds. Building resilience is one of the most important skills for letting go of what you cannot control because it equips you to face challenges without being crushed by them. Life will never stop bringing unexpected twists, disappointments, and difficulties. Some things will go wrong no matter how carefully you plan, and some outcomes will not turn out the way you hoped. Resilience is what allows you to bend without breaking, to feel pain without being defined by it, and to find the strength to stand back up when life knocks you down. It is not about avoiding hardship, but about becoming strong enough to navigate it with courage and grace. Resilience starts with perspective. When something difficult happens, it is easy to feel like it is the end of the road. But resilient people understand that setbacks are temporary and that they carry lessons hidden inside them. Instead of asking, "Why me?" they learn to ask, "What can I learn from this?" This shift turns struggles into teachers. Every challenge you face can teach you something about your patience, your courage, your ability to adapt. You begin to see obstacles as opportunities to grow stronger rather than as permanent barriers. A big part of building resilience is developing emotional flexibility. This means allowing yourself to feel the full range of emotions, sadness, frustration, anger, without letting those feelings take over your identity. You can be sad about a loss without becoming a hopeless person. You can feel disappointment without giving up entirely. When you build resilience, you learn to ride the waves of emotion and trust that they will pass. This prevents you from getting stuck in negativity or becoming bitter about the things you cannot control. Resilience does not mean being positive all the time. It means being honest with your feelings and still finding a way forward. Another way to strengthen resilience is to focus on problem solving rather than blame. When something goes wrong, many people waste time pointing fingers, blaming themselves, blaming others, blaming life. While it's natural to want to understand why something happened, staying in blame mode keeps you frozen. Resilience is about action. It asks, what can I do right now to improve this situation, even in a small way? Sometimes the answer is to take a practical step toward a solution. Sometimes the answer is to simply rest and recover until you have the energy to act. Either way, choosing action over blame helps you regain a sense of control over your life. Resilient people also know the value of support. You don't have to face challenges alone. Building resilience means reaching out to others when you need help, whether it is friends, family, mentors, or professionals. Asking for help is not weakness, it is wisdom. Sharing your burden can give you strength and perspective that you might not find on your own. Sometimes simply talking about what you are going through helps you process it and find clarity about your next steps. A key part of resilience is maintaining hope. Hope is what keeps you moving even when the road ahead looks uncertain. It is the quiet belief that things can get better, that this moment is not the end of your story. Hope gives you the motivation to try again, to keep showing up, to keep building a future even when the present feels heavy. Without hope, it is easy to give up when you cannot control what is happening. With hope, you find the courage to keep going until circumstances shift in your favor. Building resilience also means taking care of your body and mind. It is difficult to stay strong emotionally when you are physically exhausted or mentally drained. Rest, nutrition, exercise, and healthy routines give you the energy you need to handle stress. Practicing gratitude, journaling, or engaging in hobbies can keep your mind clear and balanced. Think of resilience as a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes. Each time you face a challenge and choose to keep moving forward, you are strengthening that muscle and preparing yourself for the next challenge. Resilience grows over time. You may not feel strong in the middle of a crisis, but every time you survive a hard moment, you are proving to yourself that you can handle more than you thought. Look back at your life and notice the times you overcame something difficult. Those moments are proof that you are capable, even when things seem impossible. Use that memory as fuel to keep going the next time you face something you cannot control. Ultimately, resilience allows you to trust yourself and trust the process of life. You stop fearing every obstacle because you know you have the inner strength to adapt. You stop clinging to control because you know you can survive even when things don't go as planned. This sense of trust makes life feel less frightening and more like an adventure. You begin to see that challenges are not just interruptions, but part of the journey that shapes you into someone wiser, braver, and more compassionate. When you build resilience, you create a foundation of inner strength that no external circumstance can easily shake. You still feel pain, but you are not destroyed by it. You still face uncertainty, but you are not paralyzed by fear. You still have moments of struggle, but you keep choosing to rise. And with every choice to rise, you grow stronger, freer, and more capable of letting go of what you cannot control. Because you know that no matter what happens, you will find a way through. Trusting the process is one of the hardest yet most freeing parts of letting go of what you cannot control. It asks you to believe that even though you cannot see the full picture, things are unfolding in a way that will eventually make sense. It asks you to release the need for instant answers and to allow life to move at its own pace. Most of us want clarity right away. We want to know why something happened, how it will work out, and when the pain will stop. But life rarely gives us all the answers at once. Instead, it reveals them step by step, moment by moment, and learning to trust that process is what allows you to live with more peace and less fear. Trusting the process begins with accepting that life is not linear. It is full of detours, pauses, and unexpected turns. Sometimes what feels like a setback is actually redirecting you toward something better. Sometimes a closed door is protecting you from something that would have harmed you or was not right for you. When you trust the process, you stop panicking at every delay or disappointment and start asking, what might this be teaching me? Or where might this be leading me? This shift turns frustration into curiosity and gives you the patience to see how things unfold over time. One of the most powerful ways to build trust in the process is to look back on your own life. Think of moments when things did not go according to plan, a job you didn't get, a relationship that ended, an opportunity that fell through. At the time, it might have felt devastating, But later, you may have realized that it led you to something even better or taught you a lesson you needed to grow. Reflecting on these moments reminds you that just because you cannot see the bigger picture right now doesn't mean there isn't one. Life often makes more sense when you look backward than when you look forward, and remembering this can give you faith in the moments that feel uncertain. Trusting the process also means letting go of the timeline you had in your head. We often put pressure on ourselves by thinking things should happen by a certain age, a certain year, or in a certain order. When life doesn't match that expectation, we feel behind or like we've failed. But there is no universal clock that everyone must follow. Your journey is unique, and comparing it to someone else's only robs you of peace. Trust that you are exactly where you need to be to learn what you need to learn right now, even if it feels slow, even if it feels uncomfortable. This season is preparing you for the next one. It is natural to feel fear when you cannot control what is happening, but trust allows you to keep moving forward despite that fear. It is not blind optimism or pretending that everything is perfect. It is a quiet confidence that even if things are hard now, they will not stay this way forever. Trust reminds you that storms pass, wounds heal, and new opportunities eventually appear. When you hold on to that belief, you stop fighting the flow of life and start allowing it to carry you forward. Another key part of trusting the process is staying open to possibilities you didn't expect. Sometimes we hold so tightly to one outcome that we miss other doors opening around us. Trust allows you to loosen your grip and be willing to explore new directions. It helps you see that there may be more than one path to happiness and success. You might not get what you thought you wanted, but you might get something even better. By staying open, you give life room to surprise you. Trust also requires patience, and patience can be uncomfortable. It means waiting without knowing exactly how things will work out. It means continuing to put in effort even when results are not immediate. Patience teaches you endurance, and endurance builds character. When you learn to trust the timing of life, you feel less rushed and less desperate. You can breathe, take things one step at a time, and believe that everything is coming together in the way it is meant to. Most importantly, trusting the process helps you find peace in uncertainty. Life will always have unknowns, outcomes you cannot predict, situations you cannot control. But when you trust that there is meaning in every season, you stop feeling like you are at war with reality. You stop needing every answer right now. You start to live with more grace, more curiosity, and more faith that things will align at the right moment. And even when life feels chaotic, you carry an inner calm because you know that you are strong enough to handle whatever comes. Trusting the process does not mean doing nothing. It means doing your part, showing up, taking action, learning from mistakes, and then letting go of the rest. You plant the seeds, but you don't dig them up every day to see if they are growing. You water them, you give them light, and you trust that in time they will bloom. Life works much the same way. Your job is to give your best and then allow life to do its work. When you trust the process, you stop living with constant tension and start living with hope. You understand that the journey is shaping you as much as the destination. You become less afraid of change and more willing to embrace it. You realize that every moment, even the difficult ones, has value. And with that trust, you are finally able to let go of what you cannot control, not with bitterness or fear, but with a quiet confidence that you are on the right path and that everything will make sense in time.